Joe, you are our first mortgage rep that we've ever had on the podcast. I'm glad to have you on here. I know we've talked about it for a bit with COVID and everything going on, and you having twins in the last, what is it, year and a half now?
2 years now.
2 years.
January 10th. So
yeah. It's been busy. It's been busy, but we're here, and we're looking forward to 2022. Obviously, things are starting off a little crazy, and we're going to get into that today. And we're going to get Joe's take on the market. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about it over the last few podcasts. So I'm excited to get at it.
It's the hot topic out there right now, obviously. It always seems to be at the start of every year when things drastically increase, and then it becomes the hot topic out and about.
Most people are worried about rates. That's what you read in the news all the time. Rates are going to increase. Rates are going to increase. That's what everybody's worried about.
Right. And they didn't just increase when people thought they were going to, right?
Yeah, this month they thought they were going to increase 0.25%. They said, no, we're going to hold off till next month. I don't think we can avoid it. I think there's going to be a 0.25% increase next month. But I mean, that's on the variable side. So if you're on the fixed rate, you're locked in. That's inconsequential to you, right?
Until you need to...
until you're up for renewal and so forth.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing mixed articles on the rate changes. Some are saying anywhere from 5 to 7 hikes potentially over the next year. Some are saying maybe 1 or 2. Obviously, they have to tread lightly here. We've never been through a pandemic like this before with inflation, people being out of work, things that are going on. Obviously, the house prices are through the roof. What do you think? Obviously, it's hard. You don't have a crystal ball, but where do you stand on as far as like the rate hikes and what do you think could happen?
I don't think they can raise them 6 to 7 times like they want to. I think really what's got to happen is you might see 2 to 3 rate increases this year. Unfortunately, there's just too much debt out there. The pandemic has made it so that, people weren't losing their houses. There was very few power of sales during this pandemic, which is awesome because we don't want to make our livings off of taking people's houses away from them. But at the same time, they had to deplete their savings. So their nest egg, their savings is gone, right? They had to accumulate debt, do cash advances in order to keep making their mortgage payments and keep that house going. Now that the economy's opening back up, people are going to get back to work. They want to raise rates, but you're going back to work. You're not getting a 0.25% increase in your pay. You're going back at the same wage you were. So by them raising rates, if they raise them fast, we're going to have a crash again, just like in 2008, 2009, in my opinion.
Well, what's the historic average of rates? I mean, I think, isn't it somewhere around 7%? Like if you look historically over a long period of time, like isn't
like
that
a good healthy economy is having a rate around 5%.
5%.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think they know, I mean, like you said, if they raise rates drastically, I mean, Canada, I think, is one of the most debt leveraged countries in the world.
We are right now, yeah.
Right. So they know if they raise these rates drastically, which should give people out there a little bit of comfort knowing that, like, your interest rate isn't going to shoot to 6 or 7% here, because they know that would be
what do you think their target is? Do you think they're going for like a 3.5%, 4%, or do you think they're trying to shoot for that 5%?
I mean, right now we have a stress test at 5.25%, right?
Right.
So even if they raise it, people aren't going to lose their houses because they've all been approved at that 5.25% rate.
Right.
So if they raise it 3 times, if we get the 0.75% increase, you're still going to be around 3.25%.
So on paper, they can afford that increase, but
so for people watching right now, can we explain the stress test a little bit? Because I don't think people realize that there's a stress test that's out there, and their actual true affordability actually would be a lot more, and that the Bank of Canada has already these protocols in place to kind of protect us in case of rate hikes.
Yeah. So a few years ago, the Bank of Canada, wanting to increase the rates before the pandemic, they put in place a stress test. And what that is it basically says that in 5 years from now or 4 years from now, when your mortgage comes up for renewal, if the rates go up to 5.25%, can you still afford this house?
Right. So
we always approve everybody, no matter if your rate's 1.5%, 2%, 3%. We currently approve you at 5.25% or 2% above your contracted rate. So what that means is if your mortgage rate was 4%, well, we add 2% to that. We got to qualify you at 6% versus 5.25%. So there is a buffer for everybody.
A safety net.
A safety net so that people can still afford their house.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So on the reverse effect, when we talk about people having to deplete their savings, I think there's also the people out there that have still made a decent amount of money and haven't lost work and haven't gone out and shopped and bought food and gone out for dinners and wasted as much money. There's also people that have actually been able to save a lot more. In the fact that there's also people that have lost money. But the other thing too is with the raising house prices, anybody who's owned a home has a lot of equity right now in their homes. And I'm seeing a lot of people are refinancing to do renovations, which means they're hiring contractors, they're hiring electricians, they're hiring plumbers, and they're getting work out there. So is it possible that the raise in real estate has also allowed more jobs to come in because people are refinancing and putting that money back into their homes and spending their money on bigger projects that they weren't originally able to do or afford? So could you say that it also could go in the other direction and help the economy a little bit?
Well, it's helped certain aspects of the economy. Most small businesses took a real big hit over the last 2 years, right?
For sure.
Yes, real estate did fantastic. Construction did fantastic, especially in southwestern Ontario, because everybody seems to be moving out of the big cities because we can do everything virtually now, right? So
and the
you
cost
don't
of
have
materials
to,
went up like crazy too through the pandemic because of a lot of
the
renovations and things
supply
happening,
chain
right?
issue
and
as
supply
well.
chain issues and
A big fear people have is if the market were to crash, everybody is like inevitably waiting for this crash to happen. There's people that are saying, I'm not buying a house, I'm waiting for this crash to happen. Yes, corrections can always happen. And in 2008 and 9, I believe that's one of the worst, if not the worst, that we've ever seen.
It's the worst in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And it went down 11%.
Right.
The worst. Went down 11%.
Right.
And within a year, it was back.
yes.
I think
to
around
even.
2008 to 2009, it had made the big drop. And by 2010, we were back to even and then growing on again. When I analyze the trends over the last 60, 70 years, anytime there's a drop, it seems like it's a lot more. Everybody has the same goal, and that's growth. And when something drops, everybody steps in to make sure that that drop is reversed really quick back into growth. And obviously, when it's growing, we want to prolong that as long as possible. So I always notice the drops are shorter and the growths are a lot longer. And my question to you is, because we've grown as much as we have, if we were to drop, do you think it would be worse than the 11%? And do you think we would recover fairly quickly? Obviously, again, you don't know for sure, but what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we have an inventory problem, right? So even if it were to drop, which it wouldn't, I mean, we have 250,000 people, if not more, immigrating to this country every year. They got to have a place to live. So
Right.
the problem is
I think they said it's closer to 400,000 people they try to bring in immigration every year.
I got an article that just came out 2 days ago. You got to check this out. News Ontario. I think they just announced 400 and something thousand by the end of this year, another 400,000 next year, and another 400 and change to 2024. We're looking at almost 1.5 million new immigrants to Ontario during a housing crisis and
Right.
shortage, and we're bringing in a record-setting almost 1.5 million more people in the next 2.5 years.
And we were talking to another realtor the other day, and I think he said, last year was a record number of new construction starts in Canada at 300,000, but we're bringing in 400,000 people into the country. And that doesn't mean they're all coming in and buying these new builds, but everything shifts around, right? They come in and they need a place to live, whether they're renting that place or they're buying a starter home or it just all kind of shifts up the line, right? So the math isn't adding up. The supply isn't going to...
they can't build the houses fast
No,
enough
they
for
can't.
the amount of people coming in.
Right.
And that's
Right.
why our houses are appreciating so fast,
Exactly.
right?
So we have here on the National Post, this was just posted on February 14th, 2 days ago. Canada to bring in record numbers of immigrants by 2024. Canada will admit 431,645 permanent residents in 2022, 447,055 next year, and 451,000 in 2024.
Those are oddly specific numbers.
Yes.
3
That
million
lucky 55 that gets to come in.
Yeah.
This is according to the Immigration Minister, Sean Fraser's plan. And this is going to be record-setting. So the pandemic's done, hopefully. And in the next 2-3 years, they're looking at bringing close to 1.2 to 1.5 million more people into an area that's already struggling with housing.
There needs to be a plan.
Storm's brewing.
Storm's
brewing.
Here's the thing. Immigration obviously is paramount in this country. I mean, we're a lot of us, and the way that the country works is built on this immigration and labor force that we bring into the country, and it's good for the country for a lot of reasons. But during a housing crisis like this, where there isn't a solution in the works and there's just been a lot of Band-Aid talk floating around, there needs to be some sort of step in the right direction, I think, before we continue to just buff up our population with people coming in every year.
We need a lot of infrastructure too, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and exactly. The infrastructure can't keep up.
Well,
your sewers capacity,
that's
can't
right.
handle it.
While we're on that conversation, we've had a lot of conversations in this podcast and outside this podcast in regards to why is Windsor growing at the rate it's growing. And I know this is also a provincial issue, but we've looked at what our average sale price was in relation to London and Toronto. Mm-hmm. Remember, like 5-6 years ago, and what it is now, and we are slowly closing that gap. So it means that Windsor is growing for some reason, and obviously I think it's affordability in housing. But what do you see as far as why are people buying here, and what do you see as the long term here in the Windsor area?
Well, I think Windsor is an isolated market compared to the rest of Canada. I think when you're going to see a dip, you'll see a dip in the bigger cities such as
this
Toronto.
Is what I say all the time,
and so forth, because now you don't have to be in the big smoke, to go to meetings, because you can do Zoom or webcasts or whatever, Teams or whatever it is, right?
I think we're going to get a lot of that immigration here. They're going to land, say, in Ottawa and Toronto. The affordability is not going to be sustainable for them.
But we have a lot of land here still.
And they're going to migrate where there's land and affordability.